You are listening to the Cookbook Love podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 356.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. It's July 3rd, and we're headed into a holiday weekend here. Many of you maybe have a 3-day weekend coming up. We are looking forward to celebrating the 4th of July with my sister, and we're going to go down and visit my daughter. Of course, we're going to be around some water, barbecue, grilling, parade, fireworks. So we're looking forward to the weekend. I hope you're all doing well, having a great summer, and I'm excited to be here today for yet another episode of the show where I'm welcoming Cristina Carolan. Cristina is a plant-based personal chef and author of Plant-Based Pacific, a cookbook that reflects a vibrant fusion of culinary cultures from Japan, Hawaii, and the Philippines. Cristina is the owner of Chef Veggie, a plant-based personal chef and holistic lifestyle service. She's a lifelong traveler, and her experiences living in Japan, visiting her mother's homeland in the Philippines, and calling 3 Hawaiian islands home have informed every dish that Cristina developed in her cookbook, Plant-Based Pacific. Today on this episode, we talk all about Cristina's inspiration for writing this book, how her multicultural upbringing, travel, and life have shaped the concept for her book, her cookbook publishing journey, recipes and stories from local meals like Hawaiian plate lunch and Filipino Kamayan, all with a plant-based twist. Cristina also kindly shares honest advice with aspiring cookbook authors. So whether you are a plant-based cook, a cultural food enthusiast, or dreaming of writing your own cookbook, Cristina's story will offer warmth, insight, and plenty of practical wisdom for your journey in the kitchen and at your keyboard. So without further delay, let's dive into this interview with Cristina Carolan. Hi, Cristina. Welcome to the Cookbook Love podcast.
Hi, Maggie. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm so excited that you're here too. And we get to talk today all about your brand new book, Plant-Based Pacific. But before we dive into that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Cristina Carolan, and I'm a plant-based chef who was doing business as my alter ego, Chef Veggie, in Austin, Texas for about 15 years. I recently moved back to where I was born in upstate New York. I was born at that military base, West Point, so I'm not too far away from there now. Right now, I am just enjoying being an empty nester. But before that, I had been cooking for people for about 25 years, and that would be family, friends, some temple communities, and also my personal chef clients. My journey to cooking for other people kind of started when I shifted to a vegetarian lifestyle in my 20s. And from when I was born as a young military brat, I've been traveling to all different kinds of places, but the 3 main places that I've called home have been Japan, and having grown up with a Filipino mother, I have a strong connection to the Philippines, and then also lived as newlyweds in Hawaii for a couple years.
Wonderful. So that definitely explains the Pacific part of the title and the plant-based part of the title of your book, not only where you've lived, but the way that you took a journey into eating plant-based food on your own. Let's talk first about your cooking for people and your private chef work and what that was like to, I'm assuming you cook plant-based foods for people and service them in their homes, or did you have a place where you cooked outside of their homes?
Well, my father-in-law had a personal chef when I was living in Hawaii, and I saw what she did, and it didn't look like a very hard thing to do. And so, as a mom of a young child, I thought, well, I could have that type of job, and it would help me be able to be home, after school and be able to bring her to school. And so I joined an organization called United Personal and Private Chef Association, and I learned the business from them. Before that, I had just more experience on my own cooking because there wasn't a lot of places to eat out as a vegetarian um, in the late 90s. And so if I wanted to eat something that I liked, I really needed to learn how to cook that. And so I just kind of put my shingle out, and we moved to Austin, Texas, which was becoming a growing foodie scene.
Yeah.
And my first clients were raw foodists. Oh. And so I started cooking for them on a weekly basis, and then I continued to grow my business. And most of my clients, I would say, were people who had dietary requirements that were beyond mainstream. Yeah. They had allergies or food intolerances, or they were vegan or vegetarian, or they're raw foodist. And so I was able to find that niche of being someone that could go and cook in their homes.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't a caterer. I didn't work out of a commercial kitchen. I just went to people's homes and brought all the groceries and made their meals for the week, and then cleaned up everything and went home.
Yeah.
And then I could pick up my daughter from school.
Nice.
And so it was it was a great business.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think that people that have a dietary restriction, or if they're a raw foodist, you're right. I think that they either have to make it themselves or go out and find food. But I think with allergies in particular, I can see how having a personal chef was a huge advantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't have to worry about cross-contamination, things that maybe would get into their food. So what a wonderful business. And when you cooked for them, did you do their favorites, or did they let you have some leeway with the menu?
Well, before I actually began cooking for them, I would do a long intake consultation where I'd get to know them as a family and get to learn about what they wanted to eat and how they wanted to have their meals. And so from that initial consultation, I would create menus for them. And then they could actually pick from, say, like 10 different things that I would offer. They would get to pick what they wanted to have for the week. And I would say typically people were on a meal plan that was 3 or 4 dinners, and it would include like a main dish and a side and sometimes desserts.
Yeah. Wonderful. Sounds great. And during this time, in terms of the recipes that you've put into this book and the development of these recipes, were you preparing any of these for them, or was this all development that you did based on favorites that you had incorporated into what you ate because you lived in Japan, Hawaii, and the Philippines through the military?
I would say that some of the recipes had been tested by my clients. It would have to be something that they picked.
Yeah.
So
you can throw it on the menu and see if they chose it. Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And over time, I think I began with the idea of the cookbook maybe like 2015, something like that. And so I told some of my clients, I'm thinking of writing this cookbook, and these are some of the types of foods that will probably be in it. Would you be interested in trying them?
Yeah.
And so I guess over time, some of them had been tested, and then some of them were just ones that I wanted to include myself.
Yeah. I think it's one thing that's neat about being a personal chef is you do get a lot of experience cooking, putting ingredients together, knowing what works, knowing what doesn't work. And I think all of those things, I'm sure, helped you when it came time to working on the recipes for your book and developing them to put in the cookbook.
Yes. You also see like what it's like to be a working mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes if you'd been cooking for people for 6 to 8 hours in somebody else's kitchen, do you really want to come home and make an elaborate meal? Maybe not. Maybe you want something simpler. So I could also sometimes see how my clients, how they could be struggling, to be making the meals, and how what I could provide them really did help. And sometimes I wish that I had one.
Well, then also it probably helped you to not get into, like, when you developed your recipes, you think, well, I know what it feels like to come home and maybe not feel like cooking, but know that I want to cook. Even though we want to do something, doesn't mean we sometimes may not feel like it, right? But you got to exercise that muscle as well, because so many people are looking for resources to help them get a meal on the table after they get home from a long day's work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really true. But I would say that the creativity that happens in the kitchen is also very inspiring to me.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person who loves variety. When my daughter was at home, she's in college now, but we would not have the same type of food. We would have specific days for certain types of food, so that it would, like, we wouldn't have Italian 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
That it just could not be allowed. There had to be like variety. And someone who's grown up with rice, like almost her entire life, there are times where I was just like, okay, no more rice. Or other times I have to have rice because I haven't had it in 2 days.
Yeah. 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 I think that's pretty neat though. And I think that thinking ahead and what you're going to have is really, truly one of the things that does help us get dinner on the table. But I think you, obviously, through your personal chef work and now the work that you've done in writing a cookbook, you've really been able to see a lot of different angles of this food space and this cooking space. And it's wonderful that you were able to do that. So let's talk a little bit about the journey to the book. You said in 2015 you started to have this idea for a book. What were you thinking about at that time?
The idea for the book, I would say it slowly coalesced into something. I just knew that I wanted to be an author and be published. And I thought that it would be a great way to get my name out there and promote my business. I also knew that being vegan and eating plant-based foods, for some of these cultures, it just was not something that people even knew was an option, and I wanted to make something that would make my mom proud and also honor, this heritage that I have. And so I had already been veganizing a lot of recipes, but I just didn't think that the world needed another kale salad,
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create something that was a little bit different. And I've always been like that. I've always been looking for the unique, something that had a wide variety of ingredients and just something that was different. And so I would say that that was the impetus. And I don't think that there really is any other book out there that's like it. There's been like vegan Japanese cookbooks, and there are now vegan Filipino cookbooks. There weren't any back in 2015 when I had started looking. And then vegan Hawaiian maybe there's a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that beauty of your book is you're able to pull it all together. Now, were these foods that you grew up eating, grew up experiencing, or did you dive into some dishes that you hadn't eaten growing up?
I would say the majority of these dishes are things that I have eaten
Mhm.
when I was younger. And then, of course, the Hawaiian food that came later in my 20s. True Hawaiian food is kind of like a misnomer. I would say mostly what people are eating now in Hawaii is what you would call Hawaiian local culture, but it's not necessarily like Polynesian food. And so a lot of those foods are actually um, they've been inspired by other Asian cultures.
Would you want to dive in a little bit to some flavors from Hawaii, Japan, and the Philippines? We could maybe go area by area. And when you think about that country, just maybe some of the highlights that you think about that you definitely wanted to veganize and include.
Okay.
What should we start
Well,
with?
Japan. Let's start with Japan.
Okay.
Japan is a temperate country. It's the climate is very similar to North America, and so they have distinct seasons. They have 4 seasons like we do, and so the people there, they love to eat seasonally. And something that's very popular in the spring is to view cherry blossoms. And so there are a lot of cherry blossom inspired foods in the spring. And people in Japan would not think of eating cherry blossom things in the winter.
Yeah.
And so I would say that Japanese food is very easy to find and eat here in North America. If there's other listeners in other parts of the world, probably very similar to Europe, and other places that have a temperate climate. So when I think of Japanese food, I think of rice, I think of soy products like tofu and miso and soy sauce and natto, which is like a fermented bean. So a lot of soy products. Also seaweed. Japan uses so much different kinds of seaweed and many different types of root vegetables are very come to mind, like daikon and sweet potato. And I would say all different kinds of other kinds of vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's some really, we'll talk about some of the specific recipes in a minute, but you mentioned that Japan's history does have a history with plant-based eating. So it's not a stretch to take something from their culture and to veganize it or to make it plant-based.
That is true.
Yeah.
Japan has had a culture of plant-based food called shojin ryori, and that is based on Buddhist cuisine. And so when Buddhism came to Japan, the monks came and were following the principle of ahimsa, nonviolence. And so they did not have animal products in their food. Probably dairy products weren't as available there because they require a lot of cows. And so I guess cows came eventually. So their food was typically vegan.
Yeah. Very good. What about, let's do the Philippines. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Philippines is an archipelago of 7,000 islands, and it is has a very warm tropical climate, not really like 4 seasons, but more of like a wet season and a dry season. And it's just a great place for fruit. There's so much fruit in the Philippines. I was there in 2016 with my mom and my daughter and my brother, and we did some island hopping. And just to be able to go to the markets and buy fresh fruit is wonderful. They have World Heritage sites for their rice terraces. They're just some of the most beautiful rice terraces that you'll ever see. Unfortunately, the Philippines imports a lot of their rice now. But I would say they're vegetable dishes that are basically vegan already would be like a grilled eggplant with tomatoes, onions, and cucumbers with a light vinaigrette. And the Philippines creates a lot of different types of vinegars. So they have cane vinegar, palm sugar vinegar, coconut vinegar. I would say a taste that is very prominent in the Philippines is sour. They like to use a lot of sour fruit and vinegars. One of the most Filipino fruits would be this calamandan type of citrus called calamansi. And that is my favorite citrus. If it gets put on any type of dish, it makes me think this is Filipino food.
Yeah. I think it's amazing they have 7,000 islands.
Yes. And I've only been to 3.
Yeah. 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 How can you even go to all of them? I mean, is that?
I don't know. Maybe somebody has it on their bucket list to go to all of them.
Are they all inhabited?
Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's amazing. And I love that it's sour is there. I think it's fascinating that different cultures too, like the predominant flavor, something that you think of when you think of that culture. And that sour is the flavor for the Philippines. I think that that's really neat. And you mentioned something really sweet. And having worked in the hospitality industry and in healthcare, you said a lot of traveling nurses, nannies, hospitality and service industry, people from the Philippines, some of the most loving people in the world.
Yes.
It's great. Very, very sweet.
I don't know if you've ever seen that Anthony Bourdain episode.
When he went to the Philippines? No, I didn't see that one.
Yes, it's a tearjerker.
Worth watching. I need to watch. Okay, I'll have to tune in now. I'll have to tune in. Was it on Parts Unknown? What was his other show? Parts Unknown, and I can't think of what the other one was. It'll come to me, but I'll have to look for it because he had a really great way of connecting with people and looking at just enjoying the food that they made and showing the country. And I think that those shows were definitely unique in that regard, being able to watch it unfold on camera. So you've enticed me now to look that one up.
Yes, he goes during Christmas time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very sweet. Okay, so now we're on to Hawaii.
Hawaii is a huge melting pot. That's all I can say about it. I would say that because of the history of Hawaii and how so many people were invited to help with building up the plantations. I know this is a part of like colonialism and everything, but it did bring a lot of different people together. And from the people who didn't really know each other and they didn't know each other's language, they were able to come up with their own language and they shared food at lunchtime. And so all of that food that was shared at lunchtime became kind of what is called a mixed plate. And a lot of people are actually the same way. There's so many people in Hawaii who have mixed ancestry. So they're Japanese, Hawaiian, Filipino, and Chinese, or they're Portuguese and Caucasian and Japanese. in Hawaiian, and so people there are just, I don't know how you would describe it. It's island style. It's slower. It's very family oriented, and people love to get together to share food at the beach. And so the recipes that I've shared in the book that come from Hawaii are kind of like this mixed plate. They have many different influences, and no one can claim to have the distinct like local culture food, because it is really a blend.
Yeah. And you mentioned when we first started talking about Hawaii that local culture foods versus the Polynesian ingredients in the Polynesian food. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the first people to arrive on those islands were Polynesian travelers. And with them, they brought certain foods from what is now like modern day Tahiti. So that's where the people sailed their boats from. And they brought with them taro, which is a tuber. They also brought with them pigs and some kinds of sweet potatoes and kukui nuts and breadfruit. So these are the original foods that came to Hawaii. Eventually, when other people started to come, then that's when rice and different kinds of vegetables and different kinds of fruit started to come to the island.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, the book is organized then not by Hawaii and Philippines or Japan. It's organized by, your breakfast and snacks, salads, main dishes, sides, sauces, desserts, and then some special menus at the end. So tell us a little bit about how you laid the book out and how you decided what was going to go in each chapter so that it was representative of each of these unique countries.
Well, I didn't set it up by country or different areas because sometimes some of the recipes would overlap between two. I guess you would call that fusion. And I wanted to set it up like some other cookbooks that I've seen, and to make it a little bit maybe easier for people to pick the type of meal that they wanted to have. So say you're looking at the cookbook and you're like, I want to try something for dinner, then they could look up in the main dishes instead of trying to find them within a certain type of cuisine.
Yeah. Yeah. What about ingredients for the book? If someone's thinking about approaching this topic, what kinds of ingredients do you recommend they maybe buy or have access to, perhaps seasonally, to make some of the recipes?
Well, I think as far as the different cuisines go, the food from Japan is going to be the most easy to find because, like I said before, they are a temperate country and they would be eating persimmons when we eat persimmons. They would be having squashes, winter squashes like kabocha when we would be having kabocha. And so it would be easy to find those ingredients. And then things like soy sauce and rice, and those are in almost every supermarket now. There's no need to go to anywhere special to get those items.
What about for the other countries?
For Hawaii and the Philippines.
Shouldn't, right. Hawaii, I act like it's funny that I said country, but when I think about Hawaii being one of the 50 states, it's very unique, I guess, is what I should say. The fact that it's an island state. So,
yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's all alone out there in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And the way that people who live there would call the continental U.S., they would call it the mainland.
Yeah.
And so when you're over there and you're talking about your family or friends, you would say, my family on the mainland.
Yeah, makes sense.
For those places, if for Hawaii, if the meal is inspired by Japan, then again, it would be very easy to find all the ingredients. As far as the Philippines goes, there are some things that are going to be a little bit more difficult to find, like say the calamansi. That's that citrus fruit that is really popular there. I've found it locally in some Asian marts seasonally. There's also a great frozen substitute that I like to get that comes in the size of like a ketchup packet. So they have these little frozen calamansi puree, and I found those at the Asian market.
Nice.
There is one particular online grocer that I love, and it's called Weee, Weee, and they are based in the US, and you can get them to bring you Asian products to your door, and they even deliver in Iowa.
Wow.
And this is no disrespect to Iowa, but I was surprised that they delivered to Des Moines, Iowa. And so I use this service probably 2 times a month, and I can get everything that's in my cookbook delivered to my door. And some of the things are in like a fantastic price. Like they have great prices on tofu and greens, and they even carry organic products. And I would say it would be a lifesaver if you really wanted to cook a lot of Asian food on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think what you're alluding to is that in some areas of the mainland, we may think, well, it might not be that easy to just like go to a Asian market and find these ingredients. But yeah, online shopping has changed a lot of things, and I think accessing ingredients is right up there at the top of that list.
Yes. I do encourage people to find the Asian market in their city or neighborhood
and support it. Yeah.
And to go to it. I still do that. It can be an adventure, especially if you've never been. It could be a cultural exchange. If you go there and people don't speak English, you'll just have to, find a different way to communicate.
Yeah.
Or just take some time to look down all the aisles, and you might even find something that you've never seen before. Like you go to the produce section, you might find durian, and if you've never had durian before, that'll be a nose awakening experience.
Kind of like eating Limburger cheese, but along another line. You like have to just experience it to know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that going to, of course, support local brick and mortar stores that we have in our area is important for supporting local business. But also, you're right, it is very inspirational, at least I think so too, to get in the presence of the ingredients and actually see them, be able to look at them, smell them, and also for discovery, because sometimes when we shop online, we don't really see the full breadth of what's available. Like you can if you, like you mentioned, that you noticed in that one Asian market, you could buy the frozen concentrate. And, sometimes we just happen upon these things. So I think it's good to do both. But We looks like a great resource. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that so that everybody can think about using that service if that's something that they maybe need to have access to some of these ingredients, which is makes I think it adds a lot of variety and fun to what we can cook.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. What about some special menus? I know you have the chapters like we talked about, but there are some menus at the end for some different types of meals, and I would like for you to talk a little bit about those.
Okay. One of the special menus that I share is for a Hawaiian plate lunch. And like I had mentioned earlier, the early plantation workers were of different places, and eventually there were these lunch wagons that came, and they were serving the food that these people wanted. And eventually it changed to be changed to where they were offering these plate lunches just as a lunch for people. You can still go and get a plate lunch today. And what it consists of is a protein, sometimes two scoops of rice. And in Hawaii, we would say 2 scoop rice. They don't put an S on the end. And also some kind of creamy carb, which would be either macaroni salad or potato salad, most likely macaroni salad. And then either a small salad or some kind of pickled vegetables. And that's basically what a plate lunch is. Sometimes it comes on a divided plate where each thing is like separated. Sometimes it comes like in a styrofoam clamshell. If they're environmentally conscious, it's going to come in a non-plastic cane sugar produced clamshell now. But it's just the quintessential kind of lunch. And surfers eat them. People in offices eat them. You can bring them to the beach and eat it there. And then as far as like the proteins go, there would be all different kinds of barbecue, tofu with sauces, chicken, just any kind of protein that people would be eating like for dinner. It could end up being on the plate lunch.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the options in your book for the vegan proteins, adobo,
yes,
tofu. You also use jackfruit. I'd love to talk a little bit about jackfruit and the jackfruit drumsticks. Tell us about that recipe.
Okay. Jackfruit is a tropical fruit that grows off the side of a tree. So most people have probably never seen it growing in real life, but it's not something that hangs from a branch. It actually grows off the side of the tree, and it is gigantic. It could weigh 30 pounds. And so most people aren't going to be able to consume a whole jackfruit by themselves or with their family. It's something that you have to cut up and save for later. When it's ripe, it's very sweet. And some people say that the juicy fruit bubblegum is the flavor of sweet jackfruit, that they got the flavor from that. When it's not ripe and still green, it makes a great meat substitute. It can shred and look a little bit like pork. And so what I've used in that particular recipe of the jackfruit drumsticks is cooking and shredding the jackfruit. And then I've wrapped it with yuba or soy skin. That is the protein that floats to the top when you make soy milk, and it makes a skin, kind of like when you boil milk. A skin forms, but when you boil soy milk, a skin forms, and you can take that skin off and dry it and use it in so many different types of preparations. And so I've used that soy skin or yuba to wrap around the jackfruit, and I've used a sugar cane stick as the simulation of a bone. So yeah, and this is for people who want to try to simulate something that they might have eaten in the past, like a chicken drumstick.
Yeah.
There are people who are vegan who would be like, that is totally not necessary. I don't need to recreate that. But this is for people who might enjoy something like that. And the sugarcane drumstick that's in the middle, when you chew on it, it's sweet. It's just a fun kind of sensation. It's something different.
Yeah.
but you could put any kind of sauce that you like on top of that drumstick.
Yeah, neat. And you have those as an option on the plate lunch, the Hawaii plate lunch.
Yes.
Yes. All right. There's another menu in here for a communal meal from the Philippines. Tell us about that.
That menu is for something called Kamayan, which comes from the word kamai, which means hand. And so this is basically a communal feast that you eat with your hands with a bunch of people. And you take banana leaves that have been softened over a flame, and you put it on a very, very long table. And then in the center of the table, the star is the rice. There's always got to be rice with Filipino food. And so you make this long stream or river of rice along the middle of the table. And then on top of that, you put all different kinds of things. And so there would be grilled items, fresh fruit, cucumbers, tomatoes, onions, and then people would just take a little bit of it for themselves in front of them, and they would eat with their hands, and you basically pick it up with your fingers and use your thumb to push the food into your mouth. This is to keep you from having to lick your fingers or anything. And so it can be kind of like a nicer way to eat. But it's a very fun, family-oriented or community-oriented way to eat, and it improves conversation, and you're just really in there. It's a whole sensory experience.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful photo of 4 generations of your family enjoying this meal.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
That was so much fun to do. And my mom and my grandma, they were really happy. My grandma has now passed. She lived to 103.
Oh.
And so that was great that I was able to get her in the cookbook. Unfortunately, she wasn't around when I published it, but
yeah,
I think she would be really happy.
Yeah, I think she would too. And then then it would be her, your mom, you, and then your daughter, and having all of those people present at the meal. It's beautiful, and the banana leaves, and it's very colorful, and I think it's wonderful to share. It's not just the picture of the table, but the actual people that are gathered at the table. So that's a very special thing. And then there's one more meal that's Japanese.
So the meal plan that I'm sharing there is called teishoku, and basically it is called a set lunch. And this is a lunchtime meal that's very common in Japan, in homes and in also school lunches. And basically it has, again, rice at the center. Then you have a protein and some vegetables on the side. And they've also compartmentalized each of these dishes in its own area.
Yeah. With
rice given the most prominent place. But it's a very healthy way to eat. I really think Japanese school children have the best lunch. It blows American school lunches out of the water. And I think it really just provides for a good start in life of appreciating vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think it's always so beautiful that, like you said, they use the dishes or the vessels to actually hold the different foods. It's one thing I've seemed to have noticed about, eating a Japanese meal is that's kind of part of the experience as well.
It's really true. They have a lot of aphorisms about the way to eat and how to enjoy your meal without overindulging. They would say that there should be 5 colors in your meal. There should be 5 textures or ways of cooking in your meal. So you'd have something steamed, you'd have something fried, you'd have something like fermented. And so you would have this great variety on one plate. And I think that is something really, really nice. And then just the attention to detail and the way things are presented is another great way, because they say that we eat with our eyes first. And so I think having something beautiful to eat could help just make your meal a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, that's for sure. And did you find any recipes that were hard to veganize, or you weren't able to veganize them? Obviously, other than, well, meat isn't really even a good example, but was there anything that just didn't work?
Um, I would tell you about the recipe that took me the longest to figure out. So when I was growing up in Japan, I loved to eat ramen when we would go out to eat. And sometimes it would be like at a ramen restaurant, or it would be at a food truck. And one of the things that I thought made Japanese ramen special was that it had this little spiral fish cake on top. A fish cake in Japanese is called kamaboko, but the spiral one is a naruto. And I wanted to veganize that. And so I think I went through 10 iterations for the cookbook of trying to create this little spiralized fish cake. And I'm really happy with the way that it came out. I'm not really sure so many people would be as enthused about making it as me or would even care about having that on their ramen, or who've even tasted it. And so I had to think about the texture and the taste and the overall look of it to be happy with the way that it turned out. And I honestly even looked for recipes, and I never even found one. I never found a recipe for vegan kamaboko Naruto fish cake slices. And so this is a completely new creation that I came up with.
Yeah, it's a beautiful photo that you have, and I think it's really neat to be able to visualize it and see what it looks like, and it is very pretty on top of the ramen. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I think that in Japan that we often see is these little touches like that that just enhance the aesthetic value of the food. So your cookbook, it said 2015. We started talking about the book, but I'd love to know about your journey then to getting it published, because as you've learned through this whole process, from the time we think about it until the time it actually is finished, is sometimes a circuitous path. Takes maybe longer than we think it's going to take, or sometimes maybe not as long. So let's talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a published author.
Well, Maggie, you've known me for many years now. I think we started getting to know each other in maybe 2018.
Yes.
And I signed up for Maggie's online courses on learning how to write a cookbook and find a traditional publisher. And I learned a lot during that course. I actually sent a proposal, and this is a document that you would send to a publisher that would give them info about your book. And so I sent one of those to maybe 3 different publishers. One of them was a vegan publisher that is now out of business. And a couple other ones I just never really heard back from. And so I kind of took a break from trying to find a traditional publisher at that time. And then what everybody remembers, the whole COVID pandemic began, and that kind of just got put on the back burner, because if you're thinking about how you want to live, then maybe publishing a cookbook isn't something that's high on the priority list. So I kind of took a break during that time. And then my daughter was going to be graduating from high school, and we were just really focusing on a move. So we moved from Austin, Texas to New York a couple years ago. And so finally, when I moved here, I saw that Maggie was offering another course called Cookbooks on KDP. And KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. This is Amazon's publishing section. And her course was teaching about how you could get your book on Amazon by self-publishing it yourself.
Yeah.
And so I went through that whole course. I learned how to create my cookbook on Canva, which was a platform that I was already familiar with. Canva is a graphic design online software, and it was very easy to use. She had us practice by making a low content book, and that's the type of book that doesn't have a lot of variety on the inside. It could be like a journal or a log, or just something where the pages are generally all the same. And so I created a yoga journal for that I was really happy with. And that gave me a lot of confidence to know that I could create something and it could become tangible. And so after I was done with that, then I had all the tools that I needed to finish my cookbook. So over those years, I had kept a notebook in my kitchen where I would write all of the things that I thought might be in this cookbook. And so that was the recipes and sometimes ideas for other content that I wanted to include, a long list of ingredients that I wanted to use. And I also learned how to do photography with a DSLR camera. That was a very long process because I had never really done much serious food photography before. I had started a blog in 2007 just by taking pictures with my phone and writing content for that. But it was not really, when I go back and I look at the photos, they are not worthy of being in a cookbook. So that was something that I learned along the way. And then designing the actual book in Canva and doing all of the editing.
Yeah.
So I think I started the course with Maggie in the fall of 2024. And then by January of 2025, I had most of the content finished. I just needed to do a couple more photos and clean up some of the written content that wasn't recipes. And then I had to do the long process of editing, which took a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah. It's one of the most important parts, though, I think. And it's something not to shortchange. So if you spent time on it, it's all in good, for good reason. That's for sure.
Yes. It was definitely a learning process, but I think it's something that if you have a dream to write a cookbook, it's completely possible for you to do.
Yeah. And I have to say, from when I met you in 2018, I mean, the KDP option and being able to do it, even using Canva and KDP together, it really has evolved since then. And it does give people who want to write a cookbook an avenue to do this if they should decide not to continue to pursue the traditional publishing path. And I think the book turned out really well. I hope that you're proud of it. I can tell there's a lot of you in this book, a lot of unique things that you have created for the book. And I think you should be very proud of it. What does it feel like to actually have it finished?
Well, I would say that writing a cookbook and publishing it yourself is a lot like having a child. I had a very difficult pregnancy, and so this was, I wouldn't say it was like that, but you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn that you can do hard things.
Yeah.
And you can ask for help when you need it. And so I'm someone who is a little bit of an ambivert. I can go both ways, introvert or extrovert. But I do not like asking for help.
Yeah.
And I have a big ego.
Yeah.
Maybe the smiley face is like, oh, she must be really sweet. But no, it's like pulling teeth for me to ask for help. And so ask for Maggie's help, and just being in a kind of like a community where other people are going through the same thing, it really does make a difference. And I knew that there was other people on this same path who were trying to get their cookbook project finished. And I've also talked to some other authors who have worked with Maggie and gotten their like feedback about what they're doing now that they've completed their cookbooks. And it's just fun to see other people who have made their cookbook dream come into being. And so that's a really great thing.
Yeah, because now you've entered the next phase, which is having your book here and sharing it with people who want to use your book, buy your book. And that's a whole different set of responsibilities and things that you need to do. But you're right, it's just it's a journey. You got to kind of take it step by step. And I think I'm always so proud of people when they get to the end, because I know the perseverance and the dedication to this project that it takes. And I know you have some suggestions that you wanted to share for anyone who's listening that might want to write a cookbook of your own, some of the things that really helped you.
Tips for future cookbook authors. I would say to keep a notebook in the kitchen that you are going to be writing your recipes and notes in. I really don't think having a computer or laptop is ideal. Wet fingers and computers do not work. Or if you want to have a iPad that has tons of fingerprints on it, that's your deal. But that's not how I would do it. I also like to look back at what I've written, like my little notebooks that I've had for writing this cookbook. They're already like nostalgic for me.
Yes, you can put them in the archives.
Yes. So that's fun. I'd also recommend, if you're not someone who writes for a living, like if you love to write recipes but you don't write for a living, I would brush up on your grammar and sentence structure and all of that stuff again. Maybe look at Chicago style. I forgot exactly what
I think it's called the Chicago Manual. Is it manual?
Yeah,
style?
manual style.
Yeah.
I was just thinking Strunk and White because that's what.
Oh yeah, that's what we had in college. Everybody used Strunk and White, I think.
Yeah, but I think like academic writing and doing references is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But another book that I think is great is called Will Write for Food by Diane Jacob.
Yep.
That's really great. Maggie also has a recipe writing course that will help you know what you want to include in a recipe.
Yep.
But I think just some of like basic writing knowledge would be great. Like I personally learned what an M dash was. Yeah, an M dash is a dash that's the same length as an M, and you can use it to provide emphasis and keep your sentences from being too long. And that's something that I was really prone to do, just writing really long sentences. And so that helped a lot. For this cookbook, I had to do this particular apostrophe. It's called an okina, and it's like a glottal stop that is in Hawaiian words. And so I learned how to do the um, keyboard shortcut for
Oh,
that.
wow. That's neat. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was good. And so that was another thing that I had to do during editing. I had to make sure that I had all the okinas in and in the right place, and that I didn't put the apostrophe in instead of that.
Yeah. Because it goes the other direction, it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a cute apostrophe the other way.
It is cute. It's very Polynesian. It's very nice.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And then for like your platform, I would continue to work on that. I let mine slide a little bit during 2020 to 2022. I just wasn't inspired about being online during that time. And so I would just continue to build your platform, even if it's painful, even if you're painfully shy, even if you hate the computer. These are things that I told myself that I was and why I didn't want to do it. You just really have to think about how you might want to help somebody instead of it being about you.
Yeah, 100%.
And
that's really the reframe. Yeah, that's the total reframe, Cristina. You summed it up well. When we think about ourselves, we don't want to do it, but then when you think about all the people that you can make their life a little more fun or add some inspiration or help to, that that's really the way that we share what we have. It makes a huge difference when you think about it that way.
Yes. And I would also say, if you're doing this and you want to write your cookbook, to go ahead and sure, be on social media, but try to get your own website, try to get your own email newsletter going, because these are things that are going to be yours. Mm-hmm. And if another platform shuts down, your website's not going to get shut down. Yep. Your email newsletter, will still be able to reach out. So I've been working on getting my newsletter to be a little bit more professional and to be more consistent in sending out content to them, because those are people who actually signed up 100%. And are interested.
Yep. So the only reason they're on their list is because they said they wanted to be there. So that means they probably want to hear from us, and it's a great thing to do. And it still tops most other platforms in terms of people opening and looking and reading just across the board for a lot of businesses and things like this. So it's a great thing to do.
Yes. So find your domain name that you like and sign up for one and get it. Maybe get like 2 or 3, like I have one just for the cookbook. Yeah.
So what do you think you would do differently for your next book, or the same?
I still have an idea that it might be fun to try for a traditional publisher.
Yeah.
There's a couple imprints that I've seen come out in the last 5 years that look really interesting. And I think that they, maybe I could convince them.
Yeah, no, I think you
could take a look.
Yeah. I have another student that published just like you did on KDP, and she ran into an agent through something that she was working on, and the agent said, "Oh, that's great, you did that, and just keep working on selling that book, keep doing that." And so she was very encouraging and wanted her to know, and I want to share this with everyone here too, that a self-published book is no longer a barrier to a traditional publishing contract. In fact, it actually kind of makes publishers' ears perk up, because they've learned a lot about who you are because you did this. It's kind of like a little litmus test in a way. And I think that have a lot of fun working on, connecting with people and promoting your book and talking about it and sharing it with people. And that can very maybe successfully pave the way for a traditional one.
Yes, I think that would be fun, and maybe in the future not edit my own book.
One other benefit of traditional publishing, but listen, the editing part is labor intensive, but it's probably one of the most important steps.
Yes,
Yeah.
you really get to know your book.
You really get to know your book. You really do, and
Yes.
that's good. I mean, you get to know what's in it. You get to. I mean, it's a journey just with you and the words that are on the page. And even in traditional publishing, you know, they'll do the editing, but you still have to proof and review everything. So I think no matter which way you go, editing a cookbook is a big job, and certainly something we don't want to shortchange. So I'm glad you took the time to do. You did right by the book by doing that.
The one good thing about publishing via KDP was that you could get a proof copy, and this is the copy that just comes out to you. They kind of grade out part of the cover so that it can't be sold, but you have your actual book and you can take a look at it, and you could do a final edit from there, and they allow you to do the edits and re-upload your file again so that you have a finished product that you might have actually looked at, a physical copy. And then even now, like with my book, if for some reason there's something in there that's off, I can go back and change the file, and the next set of prints will come out with a more perfect version of the book.
Yes. And so I think that's exactly right. You're in charge of the file. You can adjust it, and then if a URL ever changed or a link ever changed, you can update that as well. And that does make the process of keeping those types of things in a book updated very easy through using the model like KDP. All right. So as we're wrapping up, we love to talk about cookbooks, your beautiful book, Plant-Based Pacific. But I always am curious with my guests if there are any other cookbooks in your life that had a big influence on you or your cooking experience.
Well, as most people who love to cook, I have a lot of cookbooks. Maybe not as many as Maggie that I see here on her shelf that are all rainbow coordinated that I totally love. I would say mine are they're like subject. They're put together by subject. But one book that is the most dog-eared book that I have that I've had for over 25 years is called The Art of Indian Vegetarian Cooking by Yamuna Devi. It's a IACP award winner. It doesn't have any color photos. It just has pictures and illustrations that have been done with pointillism. So all of the graphics and everything have been done in that way. But as someone who is newly vegetarian and who follows kind of this Eastern path from India, it's a tome. It's like, I think it has 500 recipes, but it's a very special book to me. And it's something that I still look at probably on a weekly basis. The book that I'm using nowadays a lot is called The Vegan Chinese Kitchen by Hannah Che. And that's because my daughter is in China right now on a study abroad. And so when she comes back, I can't wait to see a couple things that we can make together. So there's sweet. One old book that's, well loved, and then a new book that I'm using right now.
Yeah, and I'll link to both of those in the show notes. See, those are two books I hadn't heard about before, and I think that's why that's one of my favorite questions to ask, because everyone that's listening somehow loves this whole space, and people discover a lot of new books. So thank you for sharing that. So, Cristina, if anybody would like to connect with you online, how can they do that?
You can find me on my personal chef website as chefveggie.com, and also from my cookbooks website, plantbasedpacific.com. And the book is there on the website. If you wanted to order a copy from there, I'll actually sign it and send it to you, or you can find the book on Amazon.
Okay, great. I'll link to your website, and people want to get a personalized copy. That's a great way to do that. You're also learning about fulfillment now too, like sending out orders of books to people. Such a learning thing. Yes, it's great.
It is. It's like you got to get your PayPal shipping button ready for that.
Yes, you do. I think writing a cookbook is life-changing. And there's so many things that we learn about ourselves, we learn about other people, and we learn about just business and the business world. And I think it's a wonderful thing. And you have been a joy to get to know. There are people that come through my programs that I meet for a very short period of time, but you're one of the ones that has had some longevity, which I consider a gift. So I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your passion for plant-based Pacific vegan island flavors from Hawaii, Japan, and the Philippines, and for being a special part of the Cookbook Writers Academy.
Thank you so much, Maggie. It's just so fun to be a part of your programs all these years. And I really think that there's probably another one that I would love to be a part of, like the one is about marketing.
Yes, marketing and selling. That's
yes.
And I hear you loud and clear, and perhaps something like that be on the horizon soon.
Yes. Or maybe even hop back into the traditional publishing one.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. And of course, as that's the tool, the proposal, that's really the tool for communicating. Some things have changed and some haven't, but I think the big thing is just narrowing down that focus and deciding what you want to write about and getting your idea out there. And you never know what'll happen. It's exciting.
Yes.
All right, Cristina. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day and rest of your summer.
Thank you, Maggie. Same to you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. Again, all the links can be found in the show notes at www.cookbooklove.co. And if you are interested in writing a cookbook of your own, please check out the free cookbook writing masterclass called How to Get Paid to Write a Cookbook. It is designed specifically for food or nutrition experts, and you can check that out at www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/free. So that's it for today's episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green. And until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.